Thermoregulation in domestic cats. Thermoregulation is the ability of an organism to keep its body temperature within certain boundaries in order to survive. All thermoregulation mechanisms are designed to return the body to homeostasis. Thermoregulation in domestic cats. Domestic cats must maintain a constant body temperature of 38 degrees Celsius in order to maintain homeostasis. They live in many different climates, ranging from temperatures from below zero to above 40 degrees Celsius, so thermoregulation is an important mechanism of their homeostatic system. Cats can stay warm indoors, however when outdoors, extreme temperatures can affect thermoregulation. Their body temperature is affected by the external environment as they are endotherms. Signals from the nervous system are sent to the hypothalamus when a temperature change is detected in order to reduce the effect. The hypothalamus is a small part of the brain that contains a small number of nuclei with a variety of functions. Neurons in the hypothalamus are sensitive to changes in core temperature that requires a response from the body. These responses are thermoregulation mechanisms that keep a cat's core temperature at the correct temperature. It must respond to external signals. The receptor cells pass information to the hypothalamus. The receptor that detects the change in temperature are the cat's free nerve endings in the epidermis of their skin cells. The purpose of the thermoregulatory control system is to respond to a change in the environment's conditions, which could affect essential enzyme reactions to support life. The process of thermoregulation is undergone by negative feedback. The control center is the hypothalamus, which is located in the brain and receives signals from the nervous system when there is enough change in the external environment to affect thermoregulation. The receptor is temperature-sensitive free nerve endings in the epidermis of skin cells. This then sends a signal to the control center, which is the hypothalamus. The effector when a cat is too hot is their sweat glands in the pads of their feet, which allows evaporation. Arteries and veins dilate, called vasodilation. The response is evaporation from sweat glands, cooling the body by heat loss. Vasodilation also allows heat loss through radiation as the veins and arteries are closer to the external environment. The effectors when cats are too cold are the blood vessels becoming narrow, vasoconstriction, muscle contractions by shivering and raising their fur, which is goosebumps. The response is narrowed blood vessels as they provide a smaller surface area and less heat can radiate out of the vessel. They are also further away from the cold external environment. Shivering are the muscles contracting from their reflex, which creates kinetic energy and heat. Raised fur helps to reduce heat escaping from the surface of the skin through radiation. All homeostatic mechanisms use negative feedback to maintain a constant value. In this case, it's to maintain a constant body temperature. Negative feedback means that whenever a change occurs in a system, this automatically causes a corrective mechanism to start, which reverses the original change and brings the system back towards the set point. Combined, the receptor, control center, and effector create a feedback loop. In thermoregulation of domestic cats, the corrective mechanism for a hot external environment is sweat glands in the pads of their feet and vasodilation. The corrective mechanism for a cold external environment is muscle contractions from shivering and vasoconstriction. These corrective mechanisms allow the body to restore homeostatic balance. They are able to correct the imbalance by the receptor sending a signal to the control center, then allowing the effectors to bring the system back to the set point. Firstly, the receptor, which are the free nerve endings in the epidermis of skin cells, are chemically stimulated to send a signal via the nervous system to the hypothalamus in the cat's brain when they are experiencing a temperature outside of their optimum range. This means that the signal is generated from the external environment. Neurons in the hypothalamus are sensitive to changes in core temperature that requires a response from the body. The body then responds to the change in order to return the body to its normal temperature. One of the effectors for when a cat is experiencing a high temperature are the use of eccrine sweat glands, which are found in the pads of their feet. Sweating allows heat evaporation as high energy molecules evaporate from the skin, releasing energy absorbed from the body. The skin and superficial vessels decrease in temperature. Another effector for when a cat is too hot is vasodilation. Vasodilation is when arteries and veins dilate to increase heat loss through radiation as they are closer to the surface of the skin. In contrast, when a cat is in a cold external environment, one of the effectors is muscle contraction through shivering. Muscle contraction creates kinetic energy and warmth to help a cat maintain its correct body temperature. Another way they retain body heat is by vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction is when the blood vessels supplying warm blood to the skin become narrow or constrict. This creates a smaller surface area and less heat can radiate out of the vessel. The narrowed blood vessels also further away from the skin and the cold external environment to reduce even more heat loss. Signals along nerves from the hypothalamus control both vasodilation and vasoconstriction. A cat's fur is an adaptive advantage as it contributes to thermoregulation as it provides insulation by trapping their body heat between their skin and fur. This reduces heat loss through radiation as there is a layer between the skin and the external environment. Depending on the breed, a cat can have a different length and thickness coat, which helps them maintain the correct body temperature of 38 to 38.6 degrees Celsius. With a variation of different breeds and physical traits in domestic cats, they have an adaptive advantage due to their type of coat. For example, if a long-haired cat such as a ragdoll lives in a colder environment such as Europe during winter, they have an adaptive advantage as their longer fur will provide extra insulation in order to maintain their correct body temperature. A behavioral adaptive advantage of a cat when it's too cold is curling up into a tight ball to conserve heat and prevent losing any more. The heat gets trapped between the cat's skin and fur, creating insulation. Being in a tight ball shape also reduces the amount of surface area a cat is exposing to the external environment. Having a smaller surface area means reducing radiation as there is less contact with the surrounding air and allows them to maintain the correct body temperature. When too hot, a cat may lie on a cool surface to increase heat loss through conduction. Conduction increases heat loss as it is the process of losing heat through physical contact with another object. A cat lying on a cool surface will lose body heat and cool down as it will transfer to the cool surface. This also reduces their physical activity and uses less energy to prevent more heat production from kinetic energy created by movement. There can be a breakdown of the thermoregulatory system due to extreme environmental conditions. An example of this would be high temperatures in Australia, where it can get above 40 degrees Celsius. In extreme heat conditions, a cat's neurons sensitive to pain detect temperatures that could be dangerous to the body. In temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius, a cat is at risk of hypothermia. This is a significant increase in body temperature that stops vital body functions. The exposure to excessive heat overwhelms the heat-regulating effectors such as vasodilation. Hypothermia can occur when there is excessive environmental heat and insufficient heat loss, resulting in abnormally high body temperature. Heat loss mechanisms are limited to vasodilation of blood vessels and increased rate of sweating through the pads of the feet. A fever then develops, which is when the body temperature and metabolic rate increase. The thermoregulatory system can break down if enzymes exceed a certain temperature above 40 degrees Celsius because they will denature and no longer fit their substrate to undergo their specific chemical reaction vital to life. Hypothermia can also occur in places such as Europe, where temperatures can reach well below zero. In this extreme temperature, cats are unable to maintain their thermoregulatory system. Hypothermia is when the body's core temperature drops below what is required for normal metabolism and body functions. In a severe case, once the cat's core temperature is well below 38 degrees Celsius, their heart rate, respiratory rate, and blood pressure all decrease as cellular metabolic processes shut down. The hypothalamus malfunctions and cannot allow the body to warm up as the mechanisms such as vasoconstriction and muscle contraction cannot function. Muscle contraction from shivering causes blood vessels to become exhausted and relax, leading to a sudden surge of blood and heat to the extremities, causing the cat to feel overheated. This leads the cat to feel that they are too hot, so they will not try to conserve heat, such as curling up into a tight ball. Instead, they will try to cool themselves down, leading to death.